Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
I'm thrilled to personally invite you to join me on the incredible journey with the release of the audiobook version of Selling in a Post-Trust World. In this new audiobook, I'll guide you through the game-changing principles of authentic relationships, meaningful value, and how to leave behind the empty suit mentality forever. You'll hear it all straight from me because I narrate the entire audiobook myself. As we dive into inspiring stories and practical advice, you'll discover how to bring heart and sincerity into your sales approach, connect on a deeper level with your clients, and ultimately thrive in today's skeptical world. Whether you're driving, working out, or relaxing, let's spend some time together exploring the soft skills that will yield you hard dollars. Don't just read the book, let me share it with you. Download the audiobook today on Audible and other major platforms.
Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Oh, hey, first of all, great seeing you. We're in for a treat with our friend Jamie Diglio. We got all kinds of things going on, but I just got to admit, I hate cold weather. I just can't wait for the smell of springtime. Sorry about that, folks. It's a Southern California thing. I like heat. I do not like cold. But nevertheless, that's not why we're here.
Well, we got Moneyball Leadership in the house. I think you're thinking about baseball,
I am.
freshly mowed grass, and it's not going to be too far away. We're going to peek into that today. Hey, welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast. If you're new, you've joined a growing community of sales professionals that are dedicated to being genuine, being authentic, building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. And part of the great thing about this podcast and this audience, one of the greatest things about all of it is the people that we get to know along the way. And every week we like to give a shout out to one of our friends in the Selling from the Heart community.
Yeah, I just want to give a special shout out to a gentleman by the name of Jim Skelly. I know, Jim, you listen to the podcast. What I really appreciate about Jim is every week I get a message back. He goes, Larry, I just sent your newsletter to my entire sales team. So Jim, I know you listen. I appreciate you. Thank you for being a heartfelt leader.
You are a true Selling from the Heart champion. By the way, that newsletter, if you listen to the podcast and you have not signed up for Larry's daily dose of inspiration, look, you want to get this. Just go to sellingfromtheheart.net/daily and you can get a daily dose of inspiration. Speaking of inspiration, we are excited today to host Jamie Diglio. She is a seasoned performance coach, founder of inFirst Coaching, and the author of Moneyball Leadership. Win the game by changing the way you lead. With over 2 decades of leadership experience at companies like Gartner, Microsoft, and Slalom, Jamie expertly blends her insights with her background in industrial organizational psychology to empower teams and leaders. Jamie's innovative Win Room programs and her acclaimed TEDx talk, From War Room to Win Room, have revolutionized how organizations approach employee engagement and leadership. Best of all, her new book delves into these concepts, offering leaders strategies to change their approach and achieve greater success. And she's here with us today. Jamie, welcome to the Selling from the Heart studios. We're so glad that you've joined us today.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy because we're going to talk about Moneyball, Darrell.
That's right. Well, you know the question as we get started, Jamie, that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers, and that is, what does it mean to you to sell from the heart?
Yes. Yeah. To me, it's all about just showing up as yourself and removing sort of the story we're told that we're society says we have to be, but like just showing up and being present. Every moment it's in being intentional. It seems so simple, but yet so many people struggle with that. So yeah, just showing up as who you are.
Okay, so Jamie, you can handle this. I know you can handle this. So here's the question.
Yeah.
What's showing up as yourself mean? For some of those people out there that are going,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I am myself. However, I'm going to put like a little question mark after that. But what's showing up for yourself? What's showing up as yourself? What's that really mean in looking at this
Uh,
through your lens?
yeah. And the first thing that I always say is like, you know, what do you value? Most people think they know what they value. Like that's the first thing that I do with clients, with sellers and leaders that I work with is like, what's your core value? And if you don't know that, how do you anchor everything that you do with intention? So my number one core value is courage. And how I define that is saying the things that need to be said that many people might not say out loud. Uh, and how I show up that way is like if you're going to be working with me and it's a great way to start our conversation is that I'm going to speak up even when I'm uncomfortable. I'm willing to try new things. And if I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to figure it out, but I'm going to tell you I
Mm.
don't know, but I'll find an answer. So to me, that's my definition of courage. And so understanding who you are starts with like, what do you uniquely value?
Mm. So true. And all of this, I think, really gets back to the heart of the Moneyball leadership model. And we're so excited to dive into this today. And for all of our listeners, if you've listened to the Selling from the Heart podcast for any amount of time, when we say leadership, it's synonymous with sales. Like, sales is influence. John Maxwell says leadership is influence. We're all working to influence together. And so whether you're a sales leader or a sales professional, what we're going to talk about today is super, super relevant. But you noted that today's leaders are really burning out at high rates. And I think that's true of salespeople as well. You say it's because they're measuring the wrong things. What are we measuring, and what should we be measuring to avoid the burnout and to work at peak performance?
Well, we measure everything. We like everything. And the reason why so many leaders are burning out is because like the way that they're like the expectations and how they're managing up and everything that they have to do, which takes them away from actually engaging with their sellers, engaging with their clients. But the measurements, the things that we aren't measuring, right, is motivation, is understanding what motivates your sellers, what motivates you. Do you know what motivates you? Do you understand what you need? How do you measure that? And it's really understanding like yourself. So it's a lot of this is like we're talking about how are we measuring your own self leadership? How are you leading yourself every moment of the day? And measuring what matters and why you matter. And so when it comes to when I'm talking with teams and with leaders, a lot of times what the reason why people are burnt out or they're not performing is they don't feel valued. They don't see how they contribute to the greater, the bigger goals. And so we are very focused on measuring what people aren't doing,
Yeah.
and right, like over and over again. And like that's just it's a natural way that leaders have been trained to manage, which is focusing on all of the person's weaknesses, the things that they're not doing well. We're really, really good at that. And as individuals, we're also wired to focus on our weaknesses as well. So we have a compounded effect of just spending lots of time in what I call our war room. And our war room is where we're focusing on the weaknesses, where the self-doubt, everything you're not doing, and that's where war stands for working against results. Or
Mm,
for this conversation, working against revenue,
mm, mm.
right? Um, so when we're our I think the statistics are we have like 60,000 thoughts a day. 75% of those thoughts are negative. And 85% of the thoughts that we had yesterday, we had again today.
Mm.
So there's a compounded negative story that we live in all the
Mm.
time. And so lots of leaders are trying to get performance out of their people, but what are they actually doing? They're anchoring them in their war room, which is holding them against, putting all of everything that is they want, but they're working against that because that's not how people are motivated and driven. They're driven by understanding, you know, how can they change? What do they want? What are their goals? What are their strengths? So everybody has unique strengths. All three of us have different things that we're
Mhm.
good at and other things we're not good at. So how are we, when we thinking about moneyballing it, it's about that winning formula, which is your 20%. That's that 20% that's your hidden value. It's your strengths, your unique strengths, the things you bring to the table, unpacking that. Through the course of my programs, we talk about it as your self data. So we're gathering all this self data to be able to measure how you matter.
And you know what's interesting about this, and this was it's the old cliche saying, and this was just playing in my head the last couple of minutes listening to what you're saying is, we got to measure what matters. And we've heard that saying over and over again. But in listening to you, maybe what matters has changed. And we got to measure what's changed if I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yes. Absolutely. And we historically, right, we're taught to focus on, how can we make you better? How do we, right? This is, I mean, all of us know what it was like before we had social media everywhere and we
Mm,
didn't have this comparison against everybody else. But now everybody feels like they're not doing enough. They're comparing themselves to everybody else. So they're literally putting themselves behind, because they're spending all this worry and time and energy on things that like are just distractions, and they're not focusing on what their winning formula is. So yeah, it's a different way to measure, than has historically been taught. And that's what I talk about in the book, is that leaders are burning out. They're actually using a lot of the same practices that they've been taught, and it's not their fault. Like, this is what they were taught in how to manage people, but people are looking people are looking for something different. They're looking for understanding, like how they're valued. Why would they want to stay in an organization? How do you motivate them, right? Some people need a kick in the ass and some people need a pat on the back. And as a leader, understanding how in understanding your people and what drives them and motivates them is the key to driving engagement, driving retention, driving sales, instead of just doing what historically you've done, which is just sort of focusing on all the things that you're not doing right.
mm.
Mm. Oh, so true. This is so resonating with me, and I know it's resonating with everybody. I'm curious. We got the war room working against revenue. We've got the win rooms. Tell us about the win room.
Yes, the win room. So the win room, so to the point, you've got on one side, you've got your war room, right? Where you're self-sabotaging, you're focusing on all the things. But the goal is what we want to do is, the other part, all moments of the day, we're in one of these two rooms, right? So
Mm,
like I said, we because of the 60,000 thoughts and the repetitive thoughts, we're in this cycle. We have to be able to shift. The reason why most people get stuck in the war room is because they haven't built out the win room. And the
mm,
win room stands for what I need, what's
Mm.
important now. And that is the direction you're going in, the strengths that you uniquely have, the goals that you have for yourself. What is it that you want? What do you need? What is, and setting an intention around that, because most people will say they're dissatisfied. I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I'm coaching someone who says, well, I'm just unhappy with this or this or this or this. And I'll say, okay, well, you're dissatisfied with your, sales results. It's just we'll just say that you're dissatisfied with where you're at with your sales results this year. Okay, got it. What would satisfaction be? Okay. Well, I'd be have hit my number by now. Obviously, what are we? We're almost, if you're on fiscal, we're almost at the end of the year. Okay. So realistically, what is it that, how did you put that into play at the beginning of the year, right? How have you been tracking to that? What have you actually been doing to hit those goals? And what haven't you been doing? What would you have done differently? Like, setting an intention, most people don't have, they haven't defined it. How would they actually get to that goal and have realistic goals about where they're going to be going? So once you define it for them and help them see that, like, they're unhappy with where they're at, but like, what are they doing to actually take action to get what they want? So helping them to see themselves and lead themselves more effectively, because you're putting these parameters around. And I hear this with leaders a lot too, where they're like, oh, I'm unhappy with, I'm unhappy with where I am in my career. Okay, got it. Where do you want to be? What would satisfaction be for you? Have you defined it? Well, I don't really know. Okay, let's define it. That's the first step, right? Being aware of yourself and what you're contributing or not contributing to your situation, because you are the problem and you are the answer.
Hmm.
Hey, I got a question, Jamie, and this it's just a why question, but from your opinion, is why do you think people struggle with the win in really unpacking what's important now? What do you think some of the stumbling blocks are? Because when you ask it,
Yeah.
sometimes I bet you sometimes nobody knows, but why do you think they struggle with all this to identify what's important now?
Hmm.
Because we are bombarded with ideas of what should be important versus what we actually
Ah,
believe to be important. So it's more of a foundational self-trust that you can't it's like you can't lead yourself till you can see yourself. And so this like lack of like trust in what your path should be versus the story of all these like highlight reel stories you see, and you're comparing yourself to what everybody else is doing. But that's all not real, because all the data we have right now that we see everybody's highlights, right? Edited highlights of they're all performing super well and etc. And so what happens for most people that haven't done this like self-work is that they're anchoring they're spending all their time focusing on what everybody else is doing and not thinking about what do they actually want for their path. So that's what makes it hard, because they're like they might be saying that they want something, but is that because that's what they want, or that's what they think they're supposed to have
mm,
because that's what their peers have, society says they should do, etc. And they end up, this is why we see so many people who are, successful on the outside, but empty and alone on the inside.
Hmm. We're such big fans here of doing the inner work, and you're speaking our language around this. This is such a critical thing. So I am curious, how do you play Moneyball? How does this work? Great title of the book, by the way. And I know everyone listening in, if you haven't done it already, you're probably going to want to hit pause and grab Moneyball Leadership, win the game by changing the way you lead. So give us a preview here. How do you play Moneyball in life like this?
Well, so I'll use like the pitching example. Um, so do you guys know Rick Peterson? Are you familiar with
uh,
him? He
he
was
was
the pitch.
wasn't he a pitching coach?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So Rick actually wrote the foreword of the book. So he was the pitching coach for the Oakland A's when they
Okay.
went through the Moneyball era. So he was the one that kind of came in with a, different philosophy on, what are the things we pay attention to? How do we get peak performance out of our players? And so I had actually Larry, I met him through Scott
Okay.
McGregor,
Of
because I
course.
think he was in the
Uh,
first Standing Out. And so when I was writing the book, and I was like, wait a minute, I need to reach out to him. I need to see if he'd be willing. And so of course he wanted to make sure he read it first. And we
Sure.
had so much similarities in our philosophy, just in different domains. But I'm such a sports person. And I always like to do a lot of my coaching around sports. Like most people can relate to sports and understanding how do you capitalize in, team building, how are you leading yourself, etc. So how do we play Moneyball? So when we think about Moneyball leadership, it's all about like how are you? Oh, I said I was going to use the example of pitching. So it used to be that if I was a pitcher and I would come in and they'd want to teach me all of the basic pitches, right? Like you have to have a fastball, you have to have a curveball, etc. Right? And that was traditionally how you pitched. Now you think about how we have specialized pitchers for just one thing. So each pitcher has naturally their one pitch that they're really good at, or their style, right? That makes them successful. So the same way, so like baseball has applied it, in professional sports has applied it, but in business we have not. So in business we try to like make this is the challenge. We make everybody one size fits all. We try to make all of our sellers, follow the same script and say the same things at the same time and blah blah blah. Instead of pulling out of it, like what is the thing that they uniquely contribute that they can like do differently? Because it's when we pull out that thing that pitch, or that literally the pitch, right? So I'm talking about pitching, but I'm talking about your presenting, your pitching of your sales pitch. There's a uniqueness that each person, when they're embodying themselves, that they shine. And when you do that and you unlock it, you find their money ball, like the results are compounded, because they're now seeing like they don't have to try to pitch it like everybody else. They're doing it their way.
Okay, so I just got to go there, right? So just bear with me, Jamie. You just got to bear with me on this.
Okay.
So first thing I think about, analytics, right? In baseball, there's the hidden word, and it's the analytics word that's playing in. There's an underlying theme in what you just said, and that's analytics. Baseball and the sports world has done a great job of it, but somehow it hasn't crossed over into the business world or the sales world for that matter. So somebody at a leadership level truly understands, what do I really have with my people to draw the best out of them so that we can win at a higher rate?
Correct. We have plenty of analytics in business, but when it comes to people and understanding how people work,
Yeah.
and how do you maximize people, there's a big disconnect. And because most of the people that are leading organizations are very much process people, and they want to put the systems in place and like, let's scale and make everything the same. And what happens, and I have a framework for this, and I'm happy to talk you through it. So people are very predictable, and when you know how to, like, what what to look for. And so just for the sake of simplicity, is there's four kinds of people. There are fast people, there are feel people, there are focus people, and facts people. Okay?
The
Got me?
F's, the F's.
Yes. People, I know this is my slide when I do keynotes, or I go, people are effing predictable.
I got fast, feel, focus, and facts.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
This is what I call this is part of the programs I run, but I call it mastering the new ROI, which is the return on interaction. So how do you make money in every conversation? Okay.
Beautiful.
So people who are fast people, I'm a fast person, which is I'm someone who, and I kind of, both of you are too. Larry definitely is. Darrell.
Okay, Darrell's for sure fast, but I
I
might
don't
be
know.
fast
Let's
with a
see.
question mark.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me explain it, and then I think you're both in that area. So people who are fast, they're like, this is, so I teach this as a way to decode your buyer or any interaction and really quickly. So, like, you've ever heard of love language?
Yes.
You know what love language is? Like, people have love language. Well, this is a different way to think about love language. So people who are fast, the reason you would know that they're fast is because they talk they're very direct, and they're like, see how I talk like this, and I talk really fast, and I'm outgoing, right? So people like us, we like big ideas, innovation. We like to really, what's a new way to think about things? Be like, Larry, what do you think about this problem? And you'd be like, oh, let me talk about it, right?
You're speaking my love
Hey,
language,
Jamie. Jamie, don't give Darrell any more hints, please.
Larry's done with the new ideas.
Yeah. So people, yeah, I know. So people who are fast are very much all about like innovation, and we're positive, we're enthusiastic, we're competitive. Okay. And so on that same side, we have facts people who are facts people. These people are also very direct. They tell you what they want. They want it fast. They don't want details. They just want you to tell them what's the bottom line. A lot of our leaders are facts people, right? A lot of leaders are in organizations. It's all about accountability. Their love language is all about execution. Tell me what, how are we going to benchmark this? What are the high standards, right? Like having high standards. What are the results? How do we get, tell it to me. I don't want the details. I don't want the fluff. Just give it to me. What are you going to get me? Okay. So both facts and fast people are those people that are like, they're talking really fast, and just they tell you what they want. They don't beat around the bush. Okay. So you immediately know when you talk to somebody and they're going to tell you what you want, they're going to be one of those two categories. All right. So you're talking about speed, you're talking about benchmarking, they're going to fall in love with you. So But what the worst thing you could do, right, is if you're talking to somebody who's in one of those quadrants that, is over on the feel side. So the feel side are those people that are all about teamwork and how making sure everybody's recognized. And, those are the people that are big on consensus. They want to make sure everybody is on board. Very important, right?
Yep.
Very important to have that. These feel people. And then the focus people are people who they just want all the details. They're very quiet as well. So these feel and focus people, they're more quiet. They're more of like, they'll respond when you ask them a question, but they're not going to just jump in like we would. So that if they're more reserved, they wait, they're probably going to be a feel or a focus person. A focus person is a lot of your technology people that are like engineers. They need all the details. So focus people talking to someone like me without knowing it, or like, right.
He's pointing. Okay, he's pointing at me, Diglio. He's pointing at me.
So here's the thing though, right? So again, we have, let's just say for general, 25% of people fall in each of these quadrants. And we all fall in one. But here's the thing, if we're not aware of how we show up and we're not intentional in understanding how to read the room, the chances of us missing the mark are 75%.
Not good.
In every interaction. And so that's why if I'm talking to a focus person, I need to make sure I have an agenda. I'm talking about scalability. I'm talking about certainty, the clarity, giving them the details. If I'm talking to a feel person, I'm like, all right, is there anybody else in your team that needs to be bought in? So anyway, so this sort of understanding fundamentally of how can you quickly understand, number one, this, and people are like, well, just give me this cheat code for this. All the time. I get sellers all the time, but just show me how to do this. And I'm like, you don't understand. You can have this script, but if you don't know how you're showing up as yourself, it's still not going to hit because it's still not real. And that's like that's the hack here is like you're moneyballing it because you are unapologetically being yourself while you are also understanding how do you create a strong interaction with that other person that is genuine, that there's no no facade. And most sellers have been taught to put on an act.
Yep.
And that's why there's no trust. So more quickly that you can show up in embodying who you are, which is what we do in the programs, is, helping you to see yourself so you can lead yourself. That self-awareness component, right? We hear about this all the time that that's one of the number one leadership qualities that for today's leaders and future leaders. And everyone says, oh, it's like so soft, it's so squishy. And I'm like, this is where you get hard dollars. This is where hard dollars are made because that is the place. And so just to round this out, though, I want to explain that the feel and the fast people, so the feel, like the teamwork people and the innovation people, we're all people. So we're all about how do we get people on board and bought in? And so it's all about if you get people bought in, we can create the processes and we can grow the business, right? Focus and facts people are more about process. So let's put processes in and we'll fit the people in later. See where I'm going.
So strong.
Hey, this is so good. Hey, Jamie, by the way, I'm a high clarity guy. Massive clarity guy.
I'm putting my money on focus for Larry.
You think
so? But this is so helpful. And I know what a fun conversation here today. It's always great talking with you, Jamie. I'm so excited about this book. And I know as we're wrapping up, our listeners, I'm sure they're drawn in as I am and are asking the question, how do I get more Jamie Diglio in my life?
So that went by so fast. No funny, right? That's my fast going. Now Larry's like,
do this.
Larry's like, Jamie, focus.
Hey, let's get clarity. Okay, Jamie and Darrell, let's get clarity on how we're gonna bring this podcast to a close.
Okay, we're gonna ask Jamie how folks can get more Jamie Diglio in their life.
There you go.
Oh my God, you guys rock. That's so funny. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where that's where I hang out. Send me a message on LinkedIn. Get all my information there. Find my book on Amazon.
And links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Jamie, what a pleasure. So excited about this Moneyball book. This is going to be a huge gift to our friends in the audience and actually the whole world. So we're cheering you on. This has been a wonderful conversation today.
So much. I had so much fun.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good hanging out with Jamie. We can talk baseball all the time, but
That's right.
It's a whole nother
It's
game,
a whole
right?
nother thing.
That's right. We'll have you back in baseball
40,
season.
right?
Yeah.
It's all about, right? Like this, I'm just going to say this is all about, if you want to win today, you have to be less as a seller. You have got to show up less predictable, more memorable, right? Your memory, your being memorable is all about that money ball, that 20%, the thing that's uniquely you. And so the more we can get people to embody that and be themselves, we're going to have sellers that can build trust with anybody, because that's the key. And that's what we want. Authentic. We want to change the game and how leaders are how sellers are showing up and how leaders are supporting themselves and their teams.
Here,
So
here.
good.
Jamie, thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Always fun talking with Jamie.
I can talk Moneyball all day long.
Oh, I know. This is I have a feeling that the Moneyball conversation is going to go on for a long time here inside our community at Selling from the Heart. But Larry, I love this concept on return on interactions. We talk in sales a lot about ROI because our clients ask about that. But what's our return on interactions, and being able to show up authentically, and being able to also show up in a way that's meaningful to the person we're meeting with. Like, that is a fine art. And I agree with Jamie on this. These are the soft skills that yield the hard dollars.
I was thinking that. You stole it, Darrell. You stole it, because I was thinking the same thing.
That's good.
And all this leads to, and this is our challenge. And it goes back to the WIN acronym, right? What's important now? And I really want us to think about that. I thought the highlight of our whole conversation with Jamie is we're not effing around here.
That's right. We got fast facts, feel, and focus. We got that. The alliteration makes my heart happy. Well, this has been a powerful conversation. I want to encourage everybody to click the link in the show notes and get a copy of Jamie's book, because I know this is going to be super helpful to all of us as we move forward into 2025, making it the best year yet. Speaking of it being the best year yet, we're about to celebrate the 8th birthday of the Selling from the Heart podcast, and we've got some incredible guests coming up. I promise you, you do not want to miss out.
Special guests and possibly, Darrell, even party favors, but we'll just stay on that. I'm saying we'll see. But let me just tell you, our promise to you, and it was like this in 24, it's continuing in 25. We're going to bring you fresh voices, new ideas, new thoughts, all with the commitment of helping elevate the sales profession that Darrell and I both love.
So make sure to like, or if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, maximize your return on interactions, and most of all,
sell from the heart.